Yeah, they do. They look like Muppets.
They look like Muppets. They is that wow? Bill Weld looks like yeah, he does look like a like wow. That's just
All right, which is which?
wait a minute. Gary Johnson looks like John Lovitz. Look at that face.
He's the one on the right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
No,
it's so bad.
No, you know who he
that-
looks like? You know which Muppet he looks like?
Which Muppet does he look
He,
like?
he looks like Sam the Eagle.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Wow. That is not a good way to start your website, I tell you what.
With a sign-up sheet?
Well, no, that's a decent way to start your website, but I mean, like, if you're not photogenic, don't put your face on your website.
And I like how Bill is kind of like leaning in, like, am I in the shot? Am I in it?
Am I in the shot? I'm not sure if I'm in the shot. No, Bill, we're putting you we're putting you in the center of the shot. I don't know why we're putting the vice presidential
Well, that
candidate
may
in the center
be,
of the shot.
but he's leaning to the left.
Well, his left or our left? His left, definitely.
I meant the left in general.
Well, I mean, there is that.
Wasteful spending. We are going to waste so much money.
By 2017, the national debt will be $20 trillion. That's not just obscene, it's unsustainable and arguably the greatest single threat to our national security. Let's read more.
Yeah, let's... Because we hate ourselves.
Oh no, these are really short. We're going to be done in like half an hour unless we really nitpick.
Oh, good. I can,
Look at this, it's like 3 paragraphs.
Their faces... Okay, I thought it reloaded the same page I was on.
No, I
Their
know, their faces are on
again.
every page. Okay, so responsibility for years of deficit spending rests with both Republicans and Democrats. The last 2 presidents have each doubled the national debt in 8 short years. During that time, both parties enjoyed control of Congress and deficit spending just kept piling up. These all seem to be relatively true statements. But, okay, so let's see what he says next. It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, so he's saying that the idea that you can balance the budget without cutting military spending and reforming entitlements is fantasy. Are there any other things in the federal budget that are anywhere near as costly as the military and entitlements? And I'm counting healthcare as entitlements.
No, I mean, yeah, the entitlements... I mean, entitlements is like 40 to 50% of federal spending, and the military is another 25 to 30%, something like that, I think. I'm not sure if those numbers are exactly right, but they're close.
So what's he proposing? The couple $100 million that goes to roads?
Well, apparently he's going to veto the budget every time the Congress tries to pass a budget that isn't balanced. Now...
So he knows that
No.
they'll just never pass one that's...
Right, so, I mean, he's aware that we've been operating without an actual submitted passed budget for a long time, right? Like, he's aware that apparently that string has been taken away from anyone. Like it's just, like the reins are dangling on the side of the horse and the horse has rabies.
Well, he's going to submit a balanced budget. I'm sure that
He-
they'll look at it long enough to say, oh, this belongs in the trash.
Well, I mean, he's going to submit a balanced budget, and they're going to amend the budget, and then he's going to veto the budget, and then the government's just going to continue spending ridiculous amounts of money anyway. I mean, he can do good by vetoing all bills that require spending to happen.
Yeah.
Like he can at least hypothetically do some good there.
I mean, okay,
But, like,
I'm going to be honest.
The notion that this is going to somehow magically balance the budget is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or that it's even going to stop spending in some sort of meaningful way.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I mean, I would probably do this, but
No, I mean,
I
this
wouldn't
is totally
do it
a
with the
reasonable
expectation
thing
that
to
I
do.
would be balancing the budget. And it's...
Well, no, he didn't say that he's going to balance the budget. He's going to submit a balanced budget.
Yeah.
Which is something that he could do. And he says that he's not going to rely that budget on imaginary cuts in the distant future. That's nice. I like that. He's saying that he's going to actually reduce things to bring spending in line with revenues without tax increases, which is not. I mean, no. I mean, he's going to propose real reductions to bring spending in line with. There's an important background line that he's forgetting here.
You already said it. You said propose. He's going to propose it. He has no power to actually enforce doing
Congress is going to ignore that. and then pass a and maybe they just won't pass a budget. And I mean that hasn't. I mean, it's important to note that for a couple of years of the Obama administration, we didn't have a passed budget, and yet the national debt continued to balloon. There's not any reason why vetoing the budget will, I mean, it's already a juggernaut that spends 50 to 70% more, and that's non-discretionary. I mean, like the amount of money that we spend on both on non-discretionary spending is more than we receive in revenue. So,
yeah. So touching discretionary doesn't do anything.
No. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the entitlements are non-discretionary. But my point is that it appears to me that, completely ignoring all actual legal requirements, that those spendings just continue to go on regardless of what the president or Congress appears to do. It appears to just be, at this point, a big bureaucratic hamster wheel that keeps spinning.
Yeah, it would actually,
what anybody does.
If he actually wanted to make a dent on some of that, he could just abolish all of the arms of the executive branch that everybody hates, and
well, I mean, he
could get rid of the IRS.
Who knows?
He could get rid of
Well, I mean, he can't actually get rid of the IRS. He can tell them to enforce tax law differently, but he can't get rid of them. That does require an act of Congress, I'm pretty sure.
What are the ones I'm thinking of them? Is it the Department of Education? He could abolish the Department of Education.
Well, he can't abolish it. He can tell all of the bureaucrats to sit still at a table and not do anything, but he can't actually abolish it.
I thought he had the power to. Okay. There's weren't there several organizations that were just created by the executive office that the executive office could just shut down? I thought the department.
Some of those do exist, but like the department of this or the department of that generally are mandated by Congress.
I was sure that the Department of Education was one of them.
There's definitely parts of it that he could get rid of. Like he could probably
maybe that's
tell
what
all
I'm
the
thinking
people
of.
He could probably tell all the people who are working on Common Core to go fuck themselves, and that'd be really nice.
Especially if he used those words.
Well, I mean, it would be great if he put that in every veto.
And if he said it like Sam the Eagle, only better.
I, President Gary Johnson, veto this bill because fuck all of you.
All right, next one.
Taxes.
Today's
federal tax code does all the wrong things. It penalizes productivity, savings, and investment while rewarding inefficiency and designating winners and losers according to political whim.
Yeah, that's what taxes are.
Well, I mean, there are ways to make taxes penalize things less. That is by taxing them less, or by like we selectively tax a lot of things that are just productivity. Like the capital gains tax is a good example of that. You don't get capital by magic. You have to get income and then trade that income for capital. And so if you trade that income wisely for capital that gains in value, that's like taxing that is a double tax, right?
Yeah.
You're taxing income that was smartly invested, which penalizes investment, which then reduces investment. So yeah, I mean, again, he's got a nice opening line here, and only three paragraphs and one little line in bold. Sounds, so far. I mean, it's way better written than any of the other two that we've dealt with.
Well,
simple, quick, not gonna win.
The one, yeah. Well, the one thing I will say is very nice about this is there's a lot. I find it a lot more believable when someone says he's going to simplify a tax code when he's only got 3 paragraphs to explain how he's going to do things.
That's a very good point.
So the result is a tax code that's more than 70,000 pages long, enforced by a government agency with almost 100,000 employees, blah, blah, blah.
It's a nightmare. It provides shelter for those of the means that manipulate it.
At least he understands that much. This isn't. So far, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
No. I mean, look. Remember, in the same way that Donald Trump's platform had a bunch of things that are Republican planks, but he has to say them in his platform, but he's not actually going to defend them in reality. Like this is the same. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
Johnson's platform is going to be nice and libertarian. I mean, the problem is that
Like everything he
going
said
to-
on the news hasn't been libertarian though.
that's kind of the problem. Is that he doesn't actually seem to. He seems to understand what libertarian policy would look like. He just doesn't seem to understand, or I wouldn't say he doesn't understand, but I'd say he has a different reason for approving of it than I do, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Anyway.
your reason for approving of it is because you don't think people should be monsters to each other. His reason for approving of it is that he wants to win an election.
basically yes. Well, no. I mean, he doesn't want to win an election.
Well, he would like to. He wants to get many.
He wants to be the candidate of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a different thing altogether. So Johnson advocates for the elimination of special interest tax loopholes, as opposed to the better position of expanding all tax loopholes to everyone. To get rid of double taxation on small businesses, that's reasonable. I don't know how he would actually do that. The replacement of all income and payroll. Okay, so here's his fair tax kind of thing. So the idea is that he wants to replace all income and payroll taxes with a single consumption or quote unquote sales tax that determines your tax burden by how much you spend, not how much you earn. That would ensure that no one's tax burden for the purchase of basic necessities would be increased. Cost of necessities would decrease with the elimination of taxes already included in the prices of virtually everything we buy. Okay, so this is a fair tax thing, and we all know that Congress is never going to Congress is never going to abolish the 16th Amendment. So this is a complete non-starter. It would be nice if income and wise investments weren't taxed. This is not the way to go about it.
Oh, okay. When you say this is not the way to go about it, you mean from the standpoint of this will never happen because of the 16th Amendment.
Well, okay, so I've read a little bit about this, and the proposed fair tax laws are contingent upon the abolishment of the 16th Amendment. That is, Congress could pass the fair tax law as written, and it wouldn't take effect until they abolish the 16th Amendment.
Right.
The problem is that that's not likely to happen without a significant shift in, American political, fantasies.
So that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not ever going to happen, but it's certainly not going to happen in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
There are certain advantages that a consumption tax has over an income or a business tax or a payroll tax, in that it taxes consumption, which discourages consumption. It stops taxing productivity, which encourages productivity, and it encourages investment as well. And all of these things, investment is the path to future, better, higher consumption. That's how the economy works. So, what am I trying to say here? I mean,
You're trying to say that it would be nice, but it's not going to happen, and you're trying to explain that.
Well, the problem is that, imagine, for instance, if the fair tax law went into Congress and Congress stripped out the clause that made it contingent on abolishing the 16th Amendment. Then what we would get is a value-added tax, effectively, which would be an additional sales tax in addition to income taxes that would be well hidden by taxing producers only. And again, that would be a huge tax on productivity and not on,
Yeah.
consumption, per se.
I see what you're saying. I don't. I mean, we both know that he's not going to be able to pull this one.
No,
off.
I mean, it's not. You could basically eliminate that couple of sentences from his platform because they are irrelevant.
Yeah.
They will not happen. Period. Unless somehow magically the Libertarians get 50% of Congress in the next, cycle, which is, or in the next cycle and a half, which is, I mean, hypothetically possible because 66 of the 100 senators will be up for election in the next 4 years, and all of the representatives will be too. So, hypothetically, in a magical world where the Libertarians somehow got, a majority in Congress, this could happen in the next 4 years, hypothetically, but the chances are basically zero. And the chances are non-zero that any proposed fair tax would just get amended to be an additional sales tax in addition to the income tax, which would not be good. Last paragraph, many leading economists advocate shift in the way we're taxed. He doesn't quote anybody. He doesn't link anybody. He doesn't
give a name.
He doesn't give any names. He doesn't give any studies. He doesn't give any links. So that's a major problem here, right?
It's a huge problem because all he says is that they've long advocated a shift in the way we are taxed, which could mean like
such a shift. He says.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yeah. So no, I mean that part's okay, but it's like
3 paragraphs, and I just can't make it through without missing half the words.
One of the things that Gary Johnson seems to be talking about is how he wants to get on the debate stage so that he can educate America about libertarianism and why it's a good thing, right? Why it makes their lives better. But if you have an issues page and you don't actually, and it's just, let's say, I like the fact that it's just 3 paragraphs. That's great. It's short. It gets to the point. It doesn't do a whole lot of waffling. There's not, one sentence that says one thing and then 3 sentences later it says the opposite thing. There's no clear, obvious, horrible, monstrous lies. I mean, there's some wishful thinking, but all platforms have wishful thinking. So, but like, there should be a link. Have. A lot of the things in if Hillary Clinton is elected, a lot of things that are in her platform will happen. And similarly, if Donald Trump is elected president, a lot of things that are in his platform will happen.
And similarly, if Gary Johnson gets elected, a lot of the things that are in his platform will never happen.
Right. But like.
But yeah, he presents something that is supposed to be information.
Every word in that sentence should be a link to an economist talking about why this shift is. Because if his goal is education, if his goal is to get on there and educate and win hearts and minds, then it's great that his platform is terse, but it should lead the person who is interested to more information. And I mean, it is not a good policy. That is the policy of telling people who are interested in what you're talking about to Google it is not a good policy.
Yeah, no, he needs to give it the old Rothbard effort if he's serious, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, Rothbard never used a hyperlink, but I mean...
yeah, but he cited things...
No, but he could cite Rothbard, he could cite Milton Friedman, he could cite, Friedrich Hayek, he could cite... and even a bunch of contemporary people who, I haven't actually, necessarily read that much of, but, like, smaller names, people who actually have, free market... people who actually advocate this shift in this shift in the method of taxation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've got this one. What do we have next on the agenda?
Term limits.
Term limits. Term limits.
Why is this?
Oh boy, this one's got a bunch of little tiny brain fart paragraphs.
Instead of term limits, what would be nice?
What? Good politicians?
Well, that would be nice, but I don't know. I can't think of an analogy that is.
I don't. We're gonna read it, but I don't understand.
Hey, remember when
I don't understand the purpose of term limits.
Remember when the vice president was the second place winner?
Yeah.
As of today, like thinking about that today, is that a horrifying thought or?
No, I think it's a. Well, okay, so the problem here, of course, is that the vice president is basically a do-nothing job. It is a 51st vote in the Senate, which is why I don't like Weld particularly, because, like, if Bill Weld is the 51st vote in the Senate and Bill Weld is anti-gun, Bill Weld could be the path to a new assault weapons ban, for instance.
Everything I've heard about Bill Weld, I just kind of don't like him at all, but,
For a guy who managed to get elected governor of Massachusetts, he's a lot less status than you would think he would be, but he's still pretty.
That's a hilarious way to put it.
But anyway, let's get back to the thing instead of getting.
Politicians are unable to do their job because they're incentivized to do what it takes to get reelected.
Not to do what is right. So what we'll do is instead we'll limit the number of terms so that they spend all of their time except this last term, except their final term, campaigning, and they spend their next term grooming a successor.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would argue that the problem is not with is not with people getting multiple terms, but with the system itself fighting to keep non-incumbents off the ballot. Like the fact that Gary Johnson has to fight hard to get on the debate stage is itself the travesty that we need to deal with, not the fact that Debbie Wasserman Schultz keeps getting reelected every 2 years, and by people who, if she had a term limit, she would just find some jackass to continue her legacy and throw her dumb weight behind him or her. It's the same effect. As long as you enforce, a top two party system, you're going to have this incumbency issue. And even if you get rid of the incumbency issue by way of term limits, you're just going to get, non-blood hereditary. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get seats passed
Political
down.
cronyism.
Yeah,
is
basically
the term you're looking for.
Well, you're going to get a bunch of people whose, the way that they're going to get their seat is by brown-nosing the person who currently has a seat and, agreeing with them and allowing them to brainwash them, basically. I mean, that's how that will work.
You can see it all in my brand new sitcom, Friends of the Clintons.
Yeah. Is it a sitcom or a survival horror show?
It's kind of a combination of both. Like, it's a survival horror show, but it takes place in the privacy of your own living room.
Uh-huh.
Like your own personal living room. Like a guy comes in with a gun. An official uniform, briefcase.
Clown shoes.
Hit you with the briefcase.
Yeah. Anyway.
Clown shoes are part of the uniform. Don't knock them.
It's a clown suit. Of course, clown shoes are part of the uniform.
All right, so there really isn't much to say about that.
So the whole point of politicians being incentivized to do what it takes to get reelected is just a problem that if you set a term limit for a number of terms n, it still is this incentivization still is a problem for n-1 out of n terms, and it's still a problem for the n-1th term for the last term because they're going to be grooming a successor, because that's how that works. You can't give someone the right to commit aggressive violence and expect them to not try to hold on to it.
Yeah, well, to put it a way that is clear for anyone that isn't going to hear that and like follow step by step how you get to that conclusion. So you spend 2 years campaigning to keep your office, and then the third year is your limit. So the third year you groom someone to inherit that position.
Yeah.
So that you can continue to reap the benefits of that position from someone who will reward you for getting them into that position.
Exactly.
So, I don't think I need to explain that, but someone somewhere may hear this one day and not know what you meant, and I just thought maybe.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine to kind of walk through it. Just to, I mean, it helps to walk through it just to make sure that we're not making any serious logical, fallacies, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we entered the 22nd Amendment, to limit the number of terms a president can hold. We recognize the president should focus on representing the people instead of playing politics. Yet today we have a perpetual election cycle that incentivizes the politicians to speak along carefully crafted... Wait, is he talking about himself? I mean, let's say hypothetically. That, like, No, hold on. Let's just say that hypothetically Gary Johnson is like a closet anarcho-capitalist. Let's say that he is that. What is his campaign? His campaign is him speaking along carefully crafted campaign talking points, attempting to gain votes.
No. From square one, this term limit thing. Like the minute I saw term limits, I was like, he's talking. I was sure he was talking about himself because he's the underdog here, and it's one of them things where it's like, it's okay to fight for the underdog, but if you are the underdog and you're fighting for the underdog, it kind of looks, I don't want to say duplicitous, because it's not wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not wrong to say...
it's a waste of your effort.
Yeah,
if you're the underdog, you should be fighting for yourself and not for hypothetical future underdogs.
Yeah.
Anyway, so perpetual election cycle, can a Republican support gay marriage? Can a Democrat vote for a tax cut? Not if their priorities are to get reelected. Well, I don't think that's a problem that will be solved by term limits. I don't see why that.
Oh, I don't see too many problems at all getting solved by term limits. It's like
No,
you
no,
said.
no. Okay, so then we've got, whether it's foreign policy, taxes, civil rights, or any other issue, Democrats and Republicans alike cannot take positions on behalf of their constituency because partisan campaign rhetoric trumps the pursuit of practical policy. If they're getting the votes, then they are taking positions on behalf of their constituency as their constituency sees it.
Yeah, well, is he talking about people that aren't holding seats that are pretending to be senators and?
No, this is like one of those. This is one of those, like, those dumbass Hicks in flyover country things. It's like, oh, I can't believe the people of Kansas are voting for this Republican. And I can't believe the people of Boston are voting for this Democrat, because they're just going to keep screwing them. And it's like, yes, but the problem is that the people have been brainwashed to believe that government screwing them is government loving them, and that's the problem. He's hacking at the branches of a deep-rooted problem, and that's another waste of his effort.
No, it's. I mean,
in order to reduce partisan campaign rhetoric and people voting along party lines, what you need to do is abolish the Department of Education.
Well, look, I already proposed that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have too, but I mean,
But apparently he can't do that outright. So maybe just do what you said and make them sit in not like twiddle their thumbs or something.
Okay,
because if he can't abolish the department, but he can do that, then if I ever ran
he
that
can effectively tie its legs.
Yeah,
that's definitely something he can do.
Those would be my exact words. They will sit at their desks and twiddle their thumbs. That would be my campaign.
Anyone caught not twiddling their thumbs will be fired summarily.
It's perfect. I would say one of us should run, but I just have this feeling that we'd get shot.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It would be fun to try to run as like the Libertarian Party candidate for something at some point. Just to be like...
But it just doesn't compare to the idea we had back in high school where we all ran for the Southgate City Council, and the first thing we did was rename the City Council to the League of Darkness. That
seconded, thirded.
And there's like one person on the council that isn't in our group.
Motion carries.
Why are they all wearing dark robes?
Well, no, we wouldn't wear dark robes. We would just wear normal casual clothes. And there'd be this one guy in a suit, and he'd be like, I had better be able to write a book about this after this is done.
As long as it has a pentagram on the cover. All right. Are we done with term limits?
Let's see. Are we done with term limits? Okay, so yeah, I mean, anyway, I guess we're done with term limits.
Yeah,
Next, jobs. As governors, both Gary Johnson and Bill Weld supported policies that incentivize job growth.
Oh boy, here we
Johnson
go.
was praised as having the best job creation record of all presidential candidates. Weld transformed Massachusetts from having the highest to the lowest unemployment rate of all presidential candidates, or of any industrialized state in less than 8 years.
Okay, government doesn't create jobs, that's good.
Government doesn't create jobs, entrepreneurs, that's good.
We must allow a regulatory and tax environment and incentivize fair. Okay, that's good.
That's
no
reasonable.
one picks winners and losers. Yeah, you don't have to. Well, I guess you do for some people. I have to say that. The purpose of government regulation is to protect citizens from bad actors and the harm they might do to health, safety, and property. But regulation should not be used to manipulate the economy. All right, so far so good.
This is all boilerplate Libertarian Party.
This is all the stuff they want to hear.
Shtick. This is all the stuff that the Libertarians want to hear. This is all the stuff that will. I mean, if he actually went up on the debate stage and said it's not the president's job to create jobs, I don't know what the response would be. I suspect that there would be a very large negative contingent of people who say, no, it totally is the government's job to make jobs, and I mean, it's the kind of thing that would get.
It wouldn't get him anywhere.
Well, it might get him somewhere, but like it would
with such a small group of people.
The problem with it is that like people in the media would cut that, and then they would spin it as Gary Johnson wants to increase the unemployment rate.
Well, even if they didn't cut it, that's how they'd spin it. Because I mean,
they would cut the part where he says that it's not government whoever creates jobs, it's entrepreneurs, etc. Like he would just say, As governor, I didn't create a single job. Gary Johnson didn't create a single job as governor of New Mexico. Hillary Clinton's policies will create thousands and thousands of private and public sector jobs in every state in America. Vote Hillary. I mean, it's that kind of thing. I mean, it's completely disingenuous. But
Yeah.
That's what happens to it. So we've got.
You say that like the media has interests in political parties.
Yeah.
Free press, dude.
Yeah. Free and shackled. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like a steam press coming down on
Oh.
the side of your face.
You
Just
could do that
know.
too. Yeah. Powerful corporate interests benefit from overregulation. That's definitely true. They have the resources to comply with onerous laws. Average American, entrepreneur, small business person, they don't have the teams of high-priced attorneys to help them navigate the bureaucracy. Apply common sense to regulatory policy. Get rid of unnecessary laws and taxes. Okay, so here's another place where he should have a hyperlink on every single word. Let's get rid of the unnecessary laws and taxes, and every single one of those words should be a link to a thomas.gov, statement of a law that is unnecessary.
Yeah, that's the exact sentence I was going to pick out, but good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Let's Obamacare, get gun control, rid, income tax increase of such and such, right? I mean, every single word should be a law that is unnecessary. Governors Gary Johnson and Bill Weld help create the conditions for job growth in their states, and then they will create the conditions for massive job growth across the entire country. Reduce administrative burden, level playing field, incentivize job growth. This is, again, fairly reasonable. It's one of those things that he doesn't. I mean, the problem is that they don't really have a whole lot of power to enforce this kind of thing as president. They can tell the IRS to. I mean, I don't even know how much they can tell the IRS what to do.
Well, it's not just that. It's like even if a direct order comes from the president to not do something, it's like if a regulatory agency is so big, like how easy is it to just say, "Oh, well, we didn't get the memo," and keep doing things?
Well, I mean, it would be an executive order, so it would be. I mean, there are things that he could do, but unfortunately, the group that it needs to change their policy output in order to incentivize job growth is Congress and not the president necessarily. Yeah. I mean, he could help. He could help to. He could tell a bunch of regulatory bureaucrats to sit and twiddle their thumbs. That's something he could do. I kind of doubt he will, though.
I'm sure he won't, because I'm trying to think of a situation in which that helps him as trying to be the candidate for the Libertarian Party, and I don't see it.
Yeah, so again, we've got a plank that sounds really good, but it has no real details, and it's actually for a thing that they can't actually do that much. They need to rely on Congress to do that. So we've got
in his defense, he is saying a handful of things here and there that the president actually can do.
No, I mean, I'm just talking about this particular plank.
Yeah, I know. I'm just pointing it out because Trump didn't say anything that the president can actually do.
I'm surprised that the word veto doesn't appear on this page.
That's a good point.
Because one of the things he could say is that, if Congress produces a law that increases the regulation of businesses, I will veto it. But, it's strange that he doesn't say that here, because that is definitely something that he could do. Anyway.
All right.
Are we good on this one?
Yep, good on this one.
Next up, civil liberties, which is defined as all liberties except gun ownership.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Republican who wants the government to tell you who to love, which the government doesn't actually ever.
Yeah,
I don't think the government's actually tried to ever do that. They've said who can marry whom, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Or a Democrat who wants the government to look through your cell phone, NSA, yada yada. Threat to our civil liberties needs to stop a renewed appreciation for what it means to be free. Founding Fathers established the Fourth Amendment. Where's the okay? So how is he going to? Okay, so I guess he could, as the chief executive, he could order all executive agencies to use as their definition of the Fourth Amendment a more stringent definition than the one that is currently approved by case law through the Supreme Court. That's one thing that he could do, but he doesn't say that. So I had to think of that one. because that's the real problem is that every time the Supreme Court gets a Fourth Amendment case, they're like, yeah, government can do this, pretty much all the time.
Yeah, well, you know more about that than me. I don't actually read that stuff, but
Yeah, well,
yeah, so I don't have a good comment for that.
national government that spies on private communications, monitors financial transactions, photographs your license plate, track everything you do at a public library, all without warrants or due process of law. Okay, they want government out of your life. Gary Johnson embraced marriage equality. Highest-ranking official called for an end to the drug war. Treat drug abuse like a disease instead of a crime, which is also a little bit misguided. I mean, it's better than treating it as a crime, but start treating drug abuse like a choice made by a individual whose opinions and thoughts have value.
Again, you hit the sentence that I was going to nail. It's uncanny. Yeah, he says start treating drug abuse like a disease instead of a crime, but that's.
But treating it like a disease is still a problem.
Yeah.
Because treating it like a disease is saying, well, I mean, you don't actually have the right to choose. You have the right to choose what goes into your body.
But you're a
if you
sicko
choose-
for doing it.
But if you choose wrong, then we're going to do something. We're not going to throw you in jail, but I mean, you might have to.
You're gonna have to see a specialist or something.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, it's
Like, will they force people to see doctors though?
They probably will. I mean, they already do, so they just do that more, right? Okay, vice presidential running mate, early proponent of civil rights for gays and lesbians, appointed the judge who wrote the opinion that established marriage equality as a matter of constitutional right. Outspoken defender of women's right to choose. Unlike Governors Johnson and Weld, those in power today are steadily eroding personal freedoms. People, not politicians, make choices. Responsible adults should be free to marry, arm. Okay, so there's Second Amendment right there. Arm themselves if they want. Lead their personal lives as they see fit. Protect privacy, promote freedom, trust liberty. Okay, so, I mean, this one's not so bad, right?
Yeah,
He actually does. He
not that
actually
bad
does
at all.
mention Second Amendment stuff, which is nice. And the fact of the matter is that improved standards for privacy elsewhere will also help with the Second Amendment thing. If the government can't, listen to you tell your friends about your new gun on your cell phone, then they have less information about that, right? I mean,
Right.
It's something that can help. I mean, it kind of sucks to see the arm themselves if they want as just like a tiny little sub-note, but I mean, at least it's there. Anyway, I don't know. Any other thoughts on this one?
Well, my only thought right now is that it's so far his whole platform is like, taking the good with the bad, and ignoring the fact of things that I know he's said and done.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. Is that okay? So like,
Well, no, just the platform itself. It's like I thought it would be much worse. So it.
no, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
not too bad. But then again,
But that is itself a problem. I mean, how much do I trust Gary Johnson to actually be telling the truth on this webpage as opposed to what he actually says to people when he is asked questions?
Well, I mean that right there is the reason that I won't vote for him, because
Yeah.
it's too disingenuous.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm still kicking it around. I mean, if I'm gonna bother to vote, I might actually vote for him just to throw it out there. But I might also write in like one of the other, libertarian candidates who didn't actually get the candidacy. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll write in Mark Allen Feldman because he can't actually serve as president because he passed away. Anyway, I guess we'll go on to the next
I don't even think I'm gonna do a write-in. I just can't think of. I could do another comedy write-in. The only time I ever voted was the one time that I voted for Nero Wolfe for president.
Good man.
And it was great because I was like going through everything else, and it was like Wayne County Sheriff, Barack Obama. So,
Nice.
And you know what the worst part about that is, though?
What's that?
Like part of me feels like okay, two things. First off, part of me feels like someone could have easily taken my vote and said, hey, he wrote Barack Obama here, so let's just say that he voted for Barack Obama.
Right.
Like I don't know how easy that would be to do because I don't know the process for counting.
Well, you can probably look up. Your vote. I'm pretty sure that you're allowed to do that. It's actually like your own vote is something that you can look up. You can't look up other people's votes, but you can look up your own.
I didn't know that.
I read somewhere about someone doing that, and
But that was like 8 years ago, so I don't really care
Yeah, I
anymore.
don't know. Anyway.
But another thing, I was thinking the other day, it would be interesting if you could like convince everybody, no matter who they're voting for, even if they're voting for like a Hillary Clinton or a Donald Trump, that's
Yeah.
just a fill in the dot kind of vote.
Yeah,
Convince everyone to write in all of their votes.
Yeah.
And just to see how much it would bog down the system, in terms of because I feel like that would, I don't know if it would make it easier or more difficult if any funny business is going on in counting votes, which I don't really know if I think that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it would be nice to have, a sample of everyone's handwriting to look back at and say, yes, this handwriting looks like their handwriting. I mean, there are a lot of pluses to a system where you write in where they hand you a piece of paper that has the names of all the major candidates, and then they just give you a thing to write in a box. That would.
But then you still have the problem of after the fact, who's really going to look into that anyway?
Well, no one's gonna. I mean, if there were actual allegations of fraud, then it would get looked into. But I mean, the real problem is that people would take that as voter disenfranchisement because it would take too long.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else on this plank?
No, I think it's good.
All right, foreign policy and national.
Well, I
defense.
think it's done.
I think we're done with it. Yes. The objective of foreign policy and military should be straightforward: to protect us from harm and allow us to exercise our freedoms. Okay. Looking back, how have our recent wars helped us? Have they made us less safe? Analysts conclude, blah. Last several administrations used military resources to pursue regime change.
Right.
Imperialistic
So
foreign
here he goes.
policy.
We need to build a strong military.
But we should not use our military strength to try to solve the world's problems. Doing so creates new enemies and perpetual war. We have enough problems to solve at home. As president, Gary Johnson will move quickly and decisively to cut off the funding on which financed violent extremist armies depend. That's a little bit of an awkward sentence, but it's actually correct. He will repair relationships with our allies. He will only send our brave soldiers to war when clearly authorized by Congress after meaningful, transparent deliberation and debate. Again, this is a pretty. It kind of worries me, right? Because every one of his planks so far has been pretty standard, big L libertarian planks. It's almost like he didn't really write it or approve it or didn't think of any of it on his own. He's just like, oh, what's the libertarian planks from last election? Just put those kind of things down and replace the word Bush with Obama and replace the word Clinton with Bush, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it does kind of look like that.
That's why. I mean, it's on the internet. There should be hyperlinks. Hyperlinks show that someone did some fucking work. It's nice that it's terse, but it's so terse.
It's also
that it's
something
almost
that
lazy.
I could have written with virtually no knowledge of the political landscape.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, this is all. I mean, this is big L libertarian stream of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
It's not. There's nothing mind blowing here. There's nothing offensive here. There's a lot of stuff that is on all presidential platforms, even though it shouldn't be on a presidential platform. And there's a lot of I want to do this. I don't know how, but there's no. Yeah, the thing that bugs me is that there's no links to outside information. So it's just this is what the libertarians think, and there is no controversy, and there's no one actually thinking about it except Gary Johnson, and Gary Johnson does not strike me as a particularly heavy thinker.
Yeah, not with those Sam the Eagle eyes,
No.
I don't know. We could do a whole episode on problems with the military.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's just one of those. I mean,
and he does have that one sentence: "We need to build a strong military," and that, it kind of, I won't say it worries me, but it hits that vibe,
Yeah, well, I mean, what he's I mean, that's just kind of pandering to the people that say, "Oh, but we need to protect ourselves," and he's like, "Yeah, we need to have a strong military to protect ourselves."
I know that we didn't have good history teachers or history courses in high school or in college, for that matter.
Well, I mean,
but
I blame it mostly on the books. I mean,
yeah,
the teachers themselves weren't particularly bad, but they were working with such bad material, and they've been working with such bad material for so many decades that they don't know any better. It's not their fault per se. Like, they didn't want. Like, I don't think that the history teachers that I learned stuff from, somewhat in high school actually wanted to indoctrinate me, but I don't think that they knew anything else, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're learning from someone who is indoctrinated,
Right.
There's
not much.
Yeah, you can't
do
much
about it.
It's not. It's not their fault. It's not necessarily their fault.
You have to trace it back to the person that did the original indoctrination, and
you have to do a lot of digging to find out that the U.S. Navy used to operate there would be like one government big naval flagship, but like all the real work was being done by consigned merchant vessels that were faster than the government ships, and they could hire more men, they could recruit more people, they could
afford cannons.
They could afford cannons. And it wasn't conscription either. It was like, hey, could you help us fight this war? And it's like, yeah, sure, why not? It wasn't.
Well, they were hoping to make a profit, right? That's right. They were, for lack of a better word, mercenaries, which is a word that gets a lot of really negative connotations. But
it's how we won many of our wars.
Well, it's not just that, but it's like
the flagships were slow and they didn't have good crews or well-trained crews or
right.
We had these big navies, but they came together during times of war. They weren't these.
You mean that it was against having a very large standing military?
Yes.
And only gathering military volunteers and mercenaries and hired people based on the notion that you want to protect something from a clear and present threat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wildly effective, too.
Well, I mean, it is because I mean, if you don't have your entire fleet sitting at Pearl Harbor, ... I mean, I know that the fleet wasn't entirely sitting at Pearl Harbor, but I mean,
there was a lot of the fleet at Pearl Harbor.
There were many ships at Pearl Harbor.
Many ships.
And then there were fewer, all of a
Much
sudden.
fewer.
Anyway, next issue. Wow, we're like halfway done. This is great. All right, immigration. Having served as a governor of a border state, Gary Johnson knows complex issues. Not as easy as building a wall or amnesty. Appreciate, respect diversity, productive members of society.
What does that
mean?
Not
everyone who. Well, I mean, okay, so like what he's trying to do is he's trying to stand on this tightrope, right?
He doesn't want to outright say
there's a large contingent of people who are against immigrants coming here and living off the welfare state. And when you put it that way, there's not a lot of people who really disagree with it, right? Like even the people that are really pro open borders, if you say, well, do you just want people to come over here and get on welfare? And they'll be like, well, no, that's not what I want. I mean, that's not what's going to happen. But like, so he's trying to stand on this little tightrope where he offends no one, but says things that both sides want to hear without offending the other side, right?
Right.
He's like almost there, and then he's not. So it's like, so the idea is that he's saying we want people to come here and make their lives better and our lives better by being productive. That's how people's lives are made better, is by productivity, not consumption, which is correct, and that's a hidden point here, which I'm not sure that Gary Johnson intended to put there.
You want to hear a better hidden point?
Sure.
Okay, so he says Gary Johnson and Bill Weld don't want to build an expensive and useless wall. The only thing a big wall will do is increase the size of ladders, the depth of the tunnels, and the width of the division between us. So, if you were a left-leaning individual and you read this, would it strike that infrastructure nerve with you? Would you suddenly be like, oh wait, maybe it would be better if Hillary Clinton said we should build a wall, because then it'll increase
and then fund tunnels and ladders.
Yeah,
and
then we fund the ladders, we fund the tunnels, and
we give people spoons and we say that they're employed.
But moving on.
They want to Candidates who want to militarize the border, build fences, and impose punitive measures on good people, ground their position in popular rhetoric, not practical solutions. Instead of appealing to emotions and demonizing immigrants, we should focus on creating an efficient system of providing work visas, background checks, incentivizing non-citizens to pay their taxes, obtain proof of employment, and assimilate with our diverse society. With no... Okay, so these are all like things that seem reasonable, but there's no links. If I want to know how he's going to do that,
Yeah, he doesn't give an actual
he doesn't
plan.
say how. And I'm
This
not really
right
sure
here,
that-
this was the reason that back in high school, when people were running for student council, I was putting up signs that said "vote at random" because they just said things. They were like, oh, okay, at worst, they would just say "vote for me." But then there was never any reason to vote for these people. It was without hiding anything, straight up a popularity contest. It wasn't even trying to hide
totally.
it. And
Well, there was. I mean, it wasn't something that they didn't have any power. So, like, yeah. I mean, it's not just a popularity contest. What it is future, head thugs figuring out whether or not they're suited to be head thugs or subhead thugs, and learning how to write things that encourage people to allow them to have power over them. That's what it is. It's thug training.
I love them scumbags we went to... No, I hate the scumbags we went to school with, actually.
I don't know that I hate them. Most of them didn't really get anywhere as far as high-level thuggery. So the fact that they tried and realized that they weren't good enough at it and actually had to do something productive for society, I can respect that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I did say scumbags though. So if there's scumbags
No,
going
I don't
into
I don't like the scumbags, but I can't really think of that many people who were genuine scumbags. Honestly, like there was a lot of people who were like, just normal people, whatever. And there were not that many scumbags. I can think of like one or two at least, but not that many.
I'm only slightly irritated by normal people.
Yeah, well. Yeah, so again, it's nice to have a terse platform, but it should have links to things like okay, let's say hypothetically that I was running for president, as Gary. Let's say hypothetically that I was Gary Johnson, right? I would write, I would try to make my platform terse like this. That would be a goal. But I would have a sub goal, which would be for every point that I try to make, I would write an article or make a YouTube video of me talking to someone about it or something like that to that effect. And I would link those things there. And I would put that on the front page. It's like, by the way, I tried to make my platform terse, but at the same time, I wanted people who want more information to be able to get more information. So please click on links if you find any of the things I say interesting, or if you don't like what I'm saying, and maybe you'll get a better idea of why I'm saying what I'm saying. Like there's just nothing. There's no work involved.
Yeah, well, he's no Ron Paul. I mean, Ron Paul has decades of things that he has done and written that he can link back to, and
well, it's not just that, but like, Ron Paul seems to actually have a fairly good grasp on the literature as far as like economic stuff goes on and stuff like that.
So he
like,
could also link to other things,
so he can link to things without a whole. I mean, the problem is that if you haven't actually had any intellectual curiosity your whole life, it's really, really hard to suddenly pretend that you have intellectual curiosity.
Yeah, and by not providing the information that explains what he wants to do, it kind of makes it look like he doesn't have that grasp, and I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. I mean, if you hear him talk, he doesn't seem to have a very strong grasp of libertarian principles, and he doesn't seem to be very good at elucidating them, honestly.
Yeah. Like
I don't
all.
know. It makes me want to write in either Mark Allen Feldman or John McAfee.
You know what? I don't think that John McAfee would have been the worst choice.
Oh no! I think he would have been he would have been great.
He might have been the best one that they offered. Honestly,
he would have been the insane cowboy president that I want to see. Just to watch it and laugh and laugh and laugh.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great? I mean,
like he would do so much to reduce. Well, no, I mean, not even. Oh, okay, no. I was gonna say that he would reduce the dignity of the office, and that's something that I want to happen. But at the same time, I actually watched him on the debates, on the libertarian debates, and he was actually quite dignified while still being relatively principled, and like trying to think outside the box here and there. Whereas, I mean, like, I don't know. It's one of those
Yeah,
things
I
where
didn't
it's
watch
like,
the debates, but I heard that he seemed much more principled than a lot of the candidates.
oh, he was definitely much more principled, but he also like I mean, he kind of has that outlaw libertarian kind of feel to the way that he talks about things. But at the same time, he got into a nice suit and he, trimmed his beard and he looked fairly, presidential. But the one thing that was interesting about his campaign to become the candidate was he seemed to have a really good command of how to make interesting media. I'm not going to say necessarily good, but media that makes you like say, "Oh, I want to know a little bit more." Like, before the nomination happened, you know what his campaign slogan was?
What?
Let life live.
Okay, that's
damn good. And he made some YouTube videos that were kind of like avant-garde, but then he also made some other videos that were pretty decent, ad stuff. And when I saw that that Johnson got the nomination, I was like, oh, he should really hire McAfee as his media guy, but he didn't do that. And I'm not sure that McAfee wanted to be Gary Johnson's media guy, but
you know what
that
the sad
that would
part
have been
is.
a cool campaign. Yeah, what's that?
The sad part in all of this is that I get the feeling that the people that nominated Gary Johnson, like the people that made it happen so that he's the Libertarian candidate,
Yeah.
They're trying to vote for a guy. It's like nobody's listening to the Libertarian Party. Nobody's looking at this guy. You can't get the media to look at anything that they're doing and take it seriously.
Yeah.
But when they were doing the Libertarian primaries, I guess, is that what they were calling them? Were they primaries?
It's not a primary because it was a convention. They don't have primaries.
Okay. So when the Libertarian convention was going on and people were making their choices, they were doing the same thing that everyone else does. They were basically looking at McAfee and saying, "Oh, that's just a crazy guy. We don't even have to really pay attention to him."
There were a lot of people that did that. One of the so this is one of the strategy things that I kind of understand. Like, you have Hillary Clinton, the felonious crook, cronyist monster, and you have Donald Trump, the bullying, psychotic, idiot monster. And I can kind of understand a majority of the Libertarian Party saying, we should probably nominate people who are actually respectable human beings. And I'll give that to Johnson and Weld. They're respectable, they're dignified. I don't vehemently... I don't like listening to them because they have an L after their name. If they had an R or a D after their name, I would like listening to them a lot more. But that's I think that was the strategy. I
won't say it's a bad strategy, but
for the first and only time in all of history, the Libertarian Party will have the only sane candidates.
That's a very good point.
I mean, that I think is good strategy. That's reasonable. I wish that it weren't the case that it had to be that way. I don't.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is it's going to get closer to election time, and he's the candidate that the Libertarian Party nominated. He's going to get up there and he's going to say things that aren't very libertarian, and that's going to be what everyone that's not libertarian is going to remember about the Libertarian Party.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
kind of the problem with that strategy.
Yeah,
Other than that,
well,
what you said is
I mean,
perfectly true.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, there's another source there where there's libertarian hills that I don't think Gary Johnson is willing to die on.
Yeah.
And I mean, freedom of association is one of those. For instance, like his whole notion that if you have a business, then you have to accommodate the public is immorally abhorrent. But again, turning back making an important part of your platform, the turning back of the 1964 Civil Rights Act is, I think, not going to get you a lot of votes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and I mean, you can fight the battle in a number of ways. I mean, I guess what I could say is that at least he's not going to expand that sort of entitlement, but again, it hurts me a little bit to hear someone say, "Oh no, you don't have freedom of association. That's not a real freedom." I mean, and it sucks to hear the Libertarian Party candidate saying that.
Like you said, it would be better if it was coming from a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah. If I heard a Republican or a Democrat say that, it'd be like, all right, well, he's got
I mean, it would be wonderful
whatever.
if we could get to the stage where it was Republicans and Democrats that were saying those things, and then
Yeah,
the Libertarian
right. If we
Party
could
was just
only-
straight up
if
libertarian.
if we could only get there, where like liberty was seen as some sort of positive aspect of reality to, of interpersonal relations to either of the two major parties.
Might be a tall order.
But then, anyway, I mean, I don't want to go off on too much of a, I don't want to go off too far afield here, but, I mean, here's his immigration policy. It is be more permissive while not, he's just trying to walk a tightrope here, and that's strategy. And he doesn't really provide any significant, ideas of what, I mean, I don't know. Again, this is one of those things where he says we should focus on creating blah blah blah. But what he really should be saying is, I will, entreat Congress to focus on this and this and this, as opposed to, what I mean, or he should be saying how he will affect border patrol policy, right? Because he can do that.
I mean, he's really not saying how he's going to do any of this in a lot of cases.
Well, yeah. Well, again, it's one of those things where he can't really do a whole lot, but he needs to make his policy clear. So, I don't. It's.
It shouldn't even be called a policy. It should just be called. It's just that it's where he stands. Like
The way I wish things was.
yeah.
I hear. But that's the thing is that I don't even really believe that he actually. He's so unenthusiastic about his positions that it's just like, man, get out there and yell a little bit. Be happy about being a libertarian, advocate for be happy and enthusiastic about being an advocate for the single greatest thing for humanity in all of reality.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like who do you really know that's like really a libertarian that isn't happy about it? That isn't like
I know, and there's just so much good from it because it's just like it is an engine for human prosperity.
and people that truly believe it, they're enthusiastic. They love it. They love talking about it. They love talking about the great
it's not
things
just
that
that
can
they love
come
talking
from
about it.
it.
They love arguing about the minute points about it.
Yeah.
We can talk to some libertarian and we can both say, okay, let's talk about this issue. And you're on this side and I'm on this side, or maybe one of us is going to play devil's advocate, and we can go back and forth on it. And we're just talking about stuff. We can actually have philosophical conversations with people like this, and if Gary Johnson doesn't get on the debate stage, am I going to watch any of the Hillary versus Trump debates? Hell no, because it's going to be awful. It's going to be a shit ton of ad hominem, which both of these candidates deserve ad hominem.
A
But
5-year-old
there's not-
shouting match that just so happens to not end with them hitting each other's hands over and over again.
at a third grade reading level.
I actually
it's gonna
did
be ridiculous.
the hand thing too.
The hand thing.
Two people slapping their hands against each other really
Oh
fast.
yeah, the little slap fight nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's. I guess we're
well-
done with. You got anything else on immigration?
Just one more aside. It's like
Okay.
it's really easy if you're a real libertarian. It is really. I don't know if non-libertarians or people that just have a passing interest in it but don't really read that much about it realize this. But for the real libertarian, it is really easy to spot someone who's not into it. I don't think they have any clue just how easy it is, but it is.
It's incredibly easy.
It's like one paragraph. Oh yeah, this guy just heard about libertarianism and
Doesn't really care that much.
probably thinks that some of Hillary Clinton's positions are wildly libertarian. But it's kind of in a way great, in terms of just the entertainment value and the shock value of
Yeah.
it, because I heard someone make this point recently, and it's so true.
Uh-huh.
How often do you hear people saying, yeah, I used to be a libertarian, but then I decided that the Democratic Party was for me, or I decided that the Republican Party I was much more of a Republican.
It's fairly uncommon, but it does happen.
It does happen, but do you ever hear...
And usually the thing is that when you hear that, they say it with the sound of resignation. I've heard people do this where they're like, yeah, I kind of believed in this libertarian stuff when I was younger, but then
But when you hear it the other way, it's like, yeah, I used to be
Oh,
a
no,
raging
it's like-
Democrat,
no,
or I
it's
used
totally,
to be a
totally,
hardcore
totally.
conservative Republican, and then I got
Well,
into
no.
libertarianism, and wow, my mind was blown.
It's not just that my mind was blown. It's that this is what I always wanted to think, but didn't realize that it was an option, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's like, oh, there actually exist other people who hold this as a positive thing and think about it. And it's like, man, yeah, I get what you're talking about.